Hello and welcome to another powerful episode of the Gadgets and Gizmos Show with me, Siddharth Sharma. And we have some amazing smartphones and cameras lined up for you guys this week. But before we begin, let's tell you what else is on the show for you guys in the next half an hour. On the show this week, we get you the review of the all-new Google Nexus-6 and the Blackberry Classic. There is also a new game in town that Sahil reviews. Alright, that was the lineup on the show, and first up what we've got for you guys is the all-new Google Nexus-6. But before we tell you what this smartphone holds for you guys, let's take a look at its specifications first. Google Nexus-6 sports a Motorola hardware and a 5.96-inch QHD AMOLED display. It is powered by a 2.7 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 805 processor with Adreno 420 GPU and 3 GB RAM. It is a nano SIM compatible smartphone with 4G LTE, NFC, Bluetooth connectivity. Nexus-6 comes loaded with a 13-megapixel optical image stabilization rear camera with LED flash and a 2-megapixel front-facing camera. It has a non-removable 30 to 20 mAh battery and comes in a 64 GB version at a price tag of Rs 48,999 and a 32 GB variant at a price tag of Rs 43,999. Alright, those were the specs on the all-new Google Nexus-6. Google this time around has partnered with Motorola to come out with its flagship device Nexus-6. So let's begin and tell you what the review holds for this smartphone from Google. Is it worth your money or not? Google Nexus-6 is a supersized version of the new Moto X that has been given some steroids and Android Lollipop 5.0. It has a sturdy aluminium metal frame and gently curves at the back. The Nexus-6 has a head-turning 5.96-inch AMOLED display that is not only bigger and brighter than the Moto X, it edges out the 5.5-inch iPhone 6 Plus in every way. It packs in a stunning 1440 by 2560 resolution and 493 pixels per inch. It's officially welcomed into the Quad HD Club, and this display is the one to have if you are a phablet lover. Now, design-wise, the Google Nexus-6 looks exactly like the Motorola Moto X second generation smartphone that came out recently in the market. And when it comes to the display, it's a way better display than what we've seen on the Nexus 5. At the heart of the Nexus-6 is a 2.7 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon 805 quad-core processor that has an Adreno 420 GPU. It's a top-of-the-line chip of Google's largest Android phone yet. Backing that up is 3 GB of RAM and a reasonable 32 GB or 64 GB of internal storage. And the great bit is that this smartphone is really fast. It perfectly marries with the Android Lollipop, and yes, it does have its hang-ups from time to time, but nothing major. Once the bugs are fixed, Nexus-6 is one top-performing stock Android smartphone. Now, if you are looking for a pure Android stock experience, then Google Nexus-6 is the device to own, and there are no second thoughts about it. At its back, there is a 13-megapixel camera loaded with a Sony IMX214 sensor with a wider f2.0 aperture and optical image stabilization. That said, it should give a good camera performance, but that is not the case. The camera quality is just about okay. Average at best, and considering that Nexus-6 cost more than Rs 40,000, they should have worked on the camera a little bit more. The Nexus-6 also has a non-removable 30 to 20 mAh battery. The battery has wireless charging capabilities and can supposedly regain 6 hours of power after 15 minutes of charging with a specialized turbocharger that features Qualcomm Quick Charge 2.0 technology. But that hardly worked on our device. Now, when it comes to the camera on the all-new Google Nexus-6, sure, it is an improvement over the outgoing Nexus 5. But still, this camera lacks a bit. Of course, it's got optical image stabilization now, but still, this camera is not that fast. So in camera department, this is just an average smartphone at the price point at which the Google Nexus 6 is placed at. The Google Nexus-6 has a razor-sharp and expansive display, a top-of-the-line Snapdragon 805 processor, the latest Lollipop operating system. And yes, the Nexus-6 is heavier and wider than most big smartphones, and it's the most expensive Nexus yet. But love it or hate it, it's the best stock Android smartphone money can buy right now in India. Okay then, time now for some camera action on the show, and for all you DSLR enthusiasts, Nikon recently came out with a full-frame DSLR D750. And next up on the show, we get you a review of this new DSLR from Nikon. Nikon D750 is a full-frame DSLR aimed at enthusiast photographers. Nikon's equipped the D750 with what it describes as the new 24.3 megapixel FX format sensor and comes with a higher maximum sensitivity of 12,800 ISO, support for 1080p videos at 50p and 60p. Continuous shooting is also a tad faster at 6.5 frames per second. The D750 inherits the D810's 9-frame AEB and 91K RGB metering sensor as well. The D750 is immediately recognizable as a Nikon DSLR, smart, confident and familiar. Measuring 141 by 113 by 78 mm and weighing 840 grams with battery, it's officially the smallest and the lightest full-frame DSLR in the current Nikon range. In terms of the build quality, the D750 uses magnesium alloy at the top and rear. The Nikon D750 is equipped with a pentaprism optical viewfinder with 100% coverage and a 0.7x magnification. The D750 becomes Nikon's first FX format DSLR to support an articulate screen. The rear LCD screen is a 3.2-inch one with 4:3 aspect ratio. 51-point autofocus system and group area autofocus mode are also available on the D750. The D750 also provides 3 separate still image formats, the FX, the DX and the 1.2x formats, providing you flexibility to capture your subjects in a multitude of situations or environments. Unfortunately, the D750's live view performance remains locked in the doldrums, taking about 1.5 seconds to focus and shoot under optimal conditions. You'll also find a solid complement of ports on the left side, an accessory terminal for remotes and Nikon GPS unit, HDMI, mic and headphone jack and a USB 3.0 port. And on the right there are 2 SD card slots, which are great to have. Nikon D750 is priced at Rs 1,34,000 and the Nikon D750 delivers the best photo quality and continuous shooting performance in its price class, along with a nicely well-rounded feature set. Nikon's Wi-Fi implementation is weak and some of the other features could be executed a little better. Plus, live view performance is sad. It's not the cheapest camera in its class, but the Nikon D750 delivers an excellent combination of quality, performance and features for its price. Now, Blackberry is a company that has been struggling for quite some time. Even the Blackberry Passport did not do that well. But people at Blackberry really don't know when to give up, do they? They recently came out with the all-new Blackberry Classic. And next up on the show, we tell you whether you should buy the all-new Blackberry Classic or not. Why do people still love Blackberry? It's mainly because people are still in love with the physical QWERTY keyboard. And that is what exactly Blackberry did with the Classic. Give it a nice keyboard. But that's not all. Blackberry Classic is a look in the past for Blackberry, but in a good way. Blackberry Classic stays loyal to the same design language that we've seen on the Blackberry's iconic bold smartphones. It features a stainless steel outer frame, a plastic and glass front panel and a textured back panel with slightly rubberish finish. The front of the phone houses a 3.5-inch square display with 720 by 720p resolution. The display offers wide viewing angles, vibrant colors and good brightness levels. Text and graphics look crisp and sharp. The touch response was also good on the Blackberry Classic. Below the display you'll find the menu, back and call accept and reject keys in addition to the optical trackpad for navigation. And that is where the past creeps up on the Blackberry Classic. These keys are functional and it's good to have them back on a BlackBerry device. The typing experience, well, is seamless. Classic runs BlackBerry OS 10.3.1, the latest version of BlackBerry 10 operating system. BlackBerry Classic sports a 8-megapixel camera with 5-element f2.2 lens, LED flash and support for 1080p HD video recordings at 30 frames per second. It also sports a 2-megapixel fixed focus front camera that supports 720p video capture. The camera quality is just average, and that is what you expect from a BlackBerry device. The BlackBerry Classic is powered by a 1.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Plus processor and has 2 GB RAM. The phone comes with 16 GB storage expandable via microSD card up to 128 GB. The performance for productivity is great, but opening multimedia and playing games, well, let's just say this phone is not meant to do that. At a price tag of Rs 31,990, the BlackBerry Classic is a little expensive, especially given the fact that it comes with a slightly older hardware, but this is a pure productivity smartphone. The right price point could have been somewhere about 25,000 rupees, and this would have made perfect sense. But it's a BlackBerry after all, and when it comes to productivity, mails and security, the Classic sure makes more sense than the Passport.
Now all you gamers, hold your breath. There's a new game in town. It's called The Thief. And next up, Sahil Maniktala gets you a review of this new game.
Hey guys, what's up? It's that time in the show where we get you some top quality gaming action. And this week we got a brand new game called The Thief. And as the title suggests, it's about a thief who steals things. So next up, let's find out if this game makes you feel like an epic silent superhero or an idiot stumbling in the dark. Take a look. And it is with much regret that we inform you that this game leans more towards the latter. As Master Thief Garrett, you spend hours sneaking around a dank city, plucking coin and other valuables from every available drawer, pocket and hidden safe you can find.
For me, it's simple.
This is the part the thief gets right, which makes the many aspects that it gets wrong all the more frustrating. Instead of focusing on Garrett's chosen profession, Thief spirals into yet another story of supernatural mysticism and grand conspiracy, and often does so at the expense of the game's best aspects. Moments of true thievery are frequently left to side missions, which leaves roughly 10 hours of story in which you navigate boring mazes of narrow corridors, dull traps and dim-witted enemies, all for an end result that does nothing but underscore what a colossal waste of time the whole game ultimately was.
It's changed.
Now in terms of graphics, the Thief runs on 1080 pixels and 30 frames per second, although it doesn't feel like that at all. While playing the game, I did notice some lags, the occasional drop frame rates and some audio glitches. So not only does this game fail on a creative level, but also on a technical one.
Time's moved on.
Also, it really doesn't help that the Thief's story missions often seem only mildly interested in the main protagonist's role as a thief.
Replaced the old.
Sure, the entire game is built with keeping stealth in mind and your character is given some nifty abilities. But what's the point if he can't use any of his thieving skills and then spends the entirety of the storyline investigating a supernatural mystery of no particular interest?
Somewhere in here rests the Baron's precious heirloom.
Now, not to sound completely arrogant, but I couldn't find a single thing that stood out in this game. Everything from the storyline to the characters, even to the art direction, was a complete failure. It felt as if the game developers just didn't want to make this game. And you know what? It sadly shows in the overall performance of this game. But above all else, Thief's greatest crime is one of boredom. Too much of its gameplay lacks excitement or satisfaction. Instead of feeling like a master thief, you mostly spend the game feeling like a generic first-person action hero who just happens to be especially bad at fighting people. You really do have to work very hard to find the fun bits of Thief, and more often than not, the payoff just isn't worth the effort.
Now there's one more smartphone that has been making waves on the online space, and this one is called Yuyureka. And next up on the show, Sahil Gupta gets you a review of this new smart device.
Imagine a budget smartphone which has a fast 64-bit octa-core processor, a 5.5-inch screen and 4G connectivity. Well, now you don't really need to imagine that, because Micromax with its latest U brand strives to offer exactly that. Its latest phone, the Yuyureka, follows the model created by Xiaomi, the Chinese company, which offers potent specs priced really affordably. Let's see if this can cut the mustard. As you can see, this is quite a large phone. It has a 5.5-inch screen, which makes the Yuyureka a phablet. On the back, it has got this matte finish. It feels like rubber and feels really good to hold. It becomes a bit of a fingerprint magnet and gets smudged quite easily, but overall it's a really ergonomic phone and it's really well built. The big deal about this phone is that it just does not feel like a Micromax phone. This 5.5-inch screen has a 720p resolution, which is not very high in the scheme of things, but overall the color reproduction is really good, and overall it's also pretty crisp. The color temperature of the screen is on the colder side of things, which means there's a kind of a bluish hue to the screen, but it looks decent, and in comparison to the Xiaomi Redmi Note, I felt this was better. Big deal about this phone are the specs. Now this is one of the first phones in the market to be powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 615 octa-core processor. Now this processor provides theoretical 64-bit support. So when this phone gets updated to Android Lollipop, it will support 64-bit applications. And this processor is actually a screamer. It also adds 4G support. So currently this is one of the most affordable 4G smartphones in the world. Apart from the processing grunt that this phone provides, it also has 16 GB of internal memory and a micro SD card slot. This means this phone provides more internal memory than what one finds at this price point. There's also 2 GB RAM, and it's also a dual SIM smartphone. On the back, the Yuyureka has a 13-megapixel camera complemented with a flash, and on the front it has a 5-megapixel camera. For starters, at this price point, such high resolution cameras on both the front and back are just unheard of. Secondly, the camera on the back can take some really good photos in daylight. In low light, it stumbles, but at this price point, it's one of the best camera phones you can find. Now, one of the big deals about this phone is that not only it runs on Android 4.4 KitKat, but also it's powered by a CyanogenMod OS 11. Now this is a custom ROM that is being built by the geek community for Android, and now it's a completely new company which is called Cyanogen Inc. The big deal about this is the OS is very close to stock Android, so it's very responsive, it's very fast to use, and it's completely customizable. The amount of customization that's offered on this phone is absolutely insane, and geeks particularly will love this phone because this phone is a tweaker's delight. At 8,999 rupees, this is probably the best phone under 10,000 that's available in India right now, because it packs 4G, it has a fast 64-bit capable processor, and it's got a large 5.5-inch screen and also a decent camera. The bigger problem is that this phone is being sold in this flash sale method on Amazon. Now the thing is that when you conducted their last sale for this phone, they only had around 10,000 units on offer. So chances are, even if you want to buy this phone, you won't get it.
And with that, it's time for us to say goodbye on this edition of the Gadgets and Gizmos Show. If you have any comments, queries or suggestions, tweet us at HLT Gizmos. You can also email us on htgg@aajtak.com. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, keep loving technology and spend wisely.